In a world of Keir Starmers, be a Zohran Mamdani. Keir Starmer, one of the most caricatures, most caricatured politician, a man who tries to look the part of a serious, principled politician, only to find out that he is just a spineless little cardboard box of a man. This is a person who has a personality of a styrofoam cup. This is a person who, if you were to ask him, his thoughts on the weather, he would tell you that it would be problematic to discuss the weather, and give you a whole string of reasons why you are anti-Semitic for asking the question. This is a man who has no charisma. This is a man who capitulates to those with power. This is a man with no real class, no integrity, but has the facade, has the kind of a career background of person, because of course being the head of the former head of the Crown Prosecution Service, also being a former human rights lawyer. This was a man who was kind of catapulted into the position as PM through after one lie after the other, pretending to show voters that he was a friend of Jeremy Corbyn, and also taking on the pledges of Jeremy Corbyn, only to end up with a resignation speech, because of course nobody knew what he believed in, of course. And whatever he tried to portray himself as, he portrayed himself as like the Tony Blair 2.0. But we don't live in that world anymore. Secondly, he oversaw and facilitated and supported a genocide where he literally said that it's okay for a genocidal occupation, ethno-state, occupational force to literally starve, cut electricity, essentially create the genocidal conditions. This is a human rights lawyer. Yeah, there's a man who touts as caring about, and touts himself as caring about human rights. This is a man in his tearful resignation speech. He wanted to portray his legacy as that of taking out the scourge of anti-Semitism from the party. Only that you can't actually see evidence of the kind of anti-Semitism that was kind of all prevailing within the party. You can only see people who protested against a genocide. Now, obviously, when a genocide is happening, you're going to have people who are very amped up about it, and they may not use language that is politically correct, or but in no way, shape or form is the shape of the vast majority of criticism of the state of Israel anti-Semitic. It's not. There's no question about it. It's not possible, because the impulses that give rise to talking about the humanitarian issue, the real plight, the bombardment of genocide, and the bombardment of the people of Gaza by the genocidal state, this comes from a state of empathy. Now, there's a movement within the right wing that is trying to portray empathy as suicidal, but that's because the right wing is obviously sees tribes, sees groups, and sees whether it's gender orientation, whether it's different ethnicities, as caricatures. It's a very racist and prejudiced way of looking at the world. For example, the right wing will say it's stupid, ridiculous to be to support the rights of trans people, because a trans woman, somebody who was born biologically male, is somehow going to be a threat and a danger to other women in the vicinity, because of course they're giving off the impression of being other than who they actually are. Only that it makes no sense, because of course the evidence is not backed by this. Trans women, trans men, these are just people. These are people with obviously who, and we should understand that this is why empathy, when it's pulled out from the discourse, it turns us into literal machine like robots. We start thinking about things in zeros and ones. If you're born in a certain way, and there's really no way you can change. And your purpose as a human being is to procreate. Your purpose as a human being is to oppose the so-called other. All Muslims are terrorists. This is a simplistic, and it's not only simplistic, it's based on lies and falsehood, and the lies and falsehood are generated in order to fulfill some sort of propaganda mission, propaganda strategy, in order to for the right wing to rise up and usurp all the votes, instead of us living in a world where we are react as individuals, and we believe in justice and equality, which is actually literally contrary to the people in power. This is why Elon Musk gave an endorsement to the disgusting author known as Gad Saad. He was obviously Elon Musk, being a very morally confused, morally degenerate individual. This is a person who gave the Heil Hitler salutes at this is a man who is so in his head and divorced reality that he thought it would be a good idea to do a Heil Hitler salute at a pro-Trump or Trump-aligned rally. This is a man who showcases the dark age that we're living in, where a man who can have the wealth of $1 trillion, more than a lot of countries out there, can and will never have any issues with money, no furthest way from it, and how it concentrates power and concentrates even what we call the marketplace of ideas, the so-called free market that idiots like Dave Rubin try to tout that they believe in, but they actually don't believe in anything. They believe that the so-called free market is an avenue for them to go and talk about things without understanding what they're talking about, and as a way to kind of push the kind of rhetoric that censors their opposition, which is essentially the free thinking, the freedom of intelligence, freedom of intellectualism, that they really despise. So what's at stake here is justice, equality, truth. And Keir Starmer wanted to capitulate to the right wing by providing a diluted right wing form, but he focused on obviously he depended on the focus groups, he depended on polls, only to find out that nobody's going to support the diluted Reform Party when you can support the Reform Party itself. Why would you go for an inauthentic, crap version of a product when you can go with the real deal? So Keir Starmer's legacy is that he was an abysmal failure to the degree, in the same way that Liz Truss was an abysmal failure. Only that he was given a layup, essentially. He was given 55% of the vote because the Conservatives were so bad. He did not win because he was good. He lost. He won because the Conservatives were so bad. They lost after a string and a sequence of failures. And Keir Starmer will forever be known as a genocide facilitator. We need to do more on this. We need to talk more about the kind of the failures of our political class, and how he is one of the reasons why people do not trust politicians. He cannot, he can't even, generate support from the right wing when he capitulates to them, and the normie knows that he is in a way inauthentic. And there's more on this in the future. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That'd be very much appreciated. Thank you.